Hey, City of Champions, what's going on? I'll keep the intro real short this week because I know you're all dying to hear from the man of the hour. I'm incredibly thrilled to announce my guest this week, fresh off the first half of his 2018 tour, where he's already broken the Canadian record for number of tour dates in a year. The drinkin', cussin', fishin', and ridiculously likable man himself, Brett Kissel.
The reality is that we haven't seen someone that young come in and dominate the way that he's dominated. And Crosby did to a degree, and Crosby is an amazing athlete. But this guy has immediately, from entering the National Hockey League, has become one of the greatest athletes of all sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Living today and playing today.
Yeah.
That he's in the same conversation. He's dominating the National Hockey League the same way that LeBron James is dominating basketball, the same way that whoever just pick a basketball player, or pick a baseball player, pick a football player, a star like Rafael Nadal, David, all these guys like Roger Federer. He is.
And in one of the only sports that is not an individualistic sport, right?
Yeah.
A basketball player can take over an entire game, right? A good quarterback can run the game, anything like that.
Golf obviously is completely solo.
Yeah. Other than soccer and hockey. I mean, hockey, you see Malkin's goal last night?
Oh, yeah.
He goes end to end and just backhand shelf. Yeah. That was just a shit kicking.
I think I think that Philly has such weak goaltending that they're going to be gone.
Yeah, I remember Vancouver and Boston, and just when Luongo's head was on. He was unstoppable. Yeah. But as soon as they got in his head, as soon as he went to the Gardens every time, it was just game over.
It was, yeah.
Do you want a donut?
Maybe.
Humble donut?
Yeah, I'll take a humble.
They're not the colors because they didn't have them, but they assured me that it was still all proceeds went
That's
to
fine.
the...
Well, you know what?
Speaking of which,
I'm going to take the Canadian maple.
Nice. I got that one. I thought you'd take Canadian maple.
Well, thank
I had
you.
no idea because I would never order that normally.
Really? I love Canadian maple. Oh.
I'm not really a donut.
Canadian maple or honey cruller?
I'm not really a donut
Honey crullers.
Honey crullers.
Old-fashioned or sour cream glaze.
Oh, yeah. Those are the best Timbits.
Podcast.
I think the sour cream dips are the best Timbits.
This podcast is not sponsored, by the way. It's just Subway, Tim Hortons, everything. I say the podcast is my one-man mission to get to know every person in this city.
Well, that's really cool. So who have you done so far, and then what are the goals?
So,
who do you want to do?
Jamie Soleil.
Doesn't have me on yet.
Mike Maxis. Well, the only criteria are you have to be, and I was trying to hit people who at least have somewhat of a following, just so the podcast didn't...
Also, tell me when we want to start rolling.
You can go ahead, and then we'll cut in whenever.
We get an hour and a half of tape on here.
Yeah, we won't. We'll put that
on.
Go for that.
Cool.
Takes as much time because we're kind of starting early, so
no problem. Jamie Soleil.
Just so you can keep tabs on it, I'm going to flip these screens forward, Shane.
Perfect.
So you know what's going on there.
Thank you.
Then, I'm next door if you need me.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I think Ryan's going to pop in when he's here. You just shut that door if you don't mind.
Yep, sure.
Thanks, Sam. Jamie Soleil, Adam Braidwood, Phil, my buddy Phil from Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else. It's just like it's a running list.
How many have you done?
This is 36.
Great.
Yeah, I promised myself one a week for as long as I could.
Yeah.
Until I didn't want to do it anymore. So I'll go at least a year.
Yeah. And
then we'll see.
Well, that's great. I think it's awesome. My agent is very, very intrigued with people who are starting out in podcasting, and the same thing because he listens to Rogan and Gary Vaynerchuk and stuff like that. He's actually got to know Gary quite well and done some stuff with him. So it's like it's really, really cool that you're doing this, and I'm excited to see what it's obviously going to become as time goes on.
Yeah, and I mean, to answer your other question of who would I want to have on, really the only two criteria are someone who is has a really interesting story to tell or doing great things and is from or somewhat related to the city of Edmonton.
Yeah.
So Adam Braidwood, who's a boxer, do you know him?
No, I don't.
He's got a real tumultuous past, and he was drafted first overall by the Eskimos back in 2006.
Okay.
And then got injured, got addicted to opiates and other drugs, and got into gang activities to pay for these drugs. And then ended up that all culminated in 2 years of jail time, and then he got out, started professionally boxing, and he's I think 10-1 now since then. Like he won his first national title when he was still in a halfway house. He won a national title, best boxer in Canada, heavyweight, and then goes back to his halfway house where he said he, like, not regularly, but every once in a while, see people dead in the hallways from overdosing.
And that sounds like a movie to me.
Right?
It's interesting because you look at, and I would assume how you grew up, how I grew up, and a lot of people in my circle, your circle, it's very difficult to think that goes on in a country like Canada, but that would be so naive to think that it doesn't, because clearly there is that activity and there are those people who are going through those tough times. But what a great lesson in perseverance for him.
Absolutely.
And what an amazing conversation. I can't wait to hear that conversation. Please send me a link.
I'll send that one to you. And I mean, that's what I said to him, and I feel about him is the biggest champions always come from the greatest adversity, in my mind. You go through any list of history in hundreds of years, a lot of that stuff comes from there. Yeah, it's that one thing. It's like the one positive from when you hit rock bottom. And I mean, rock bottom's always perspective-wise. It can be different for everyone. You can say this is my rock bottom, but really rock bottom is like death, I suppose, and you can't rebound from that one. But, the farther gap you have to make up, that just is all the more admirable and incredible. Yeah. So he was a really good one, really interesting one. Jamie Soleil was fantastic. Yeah, she's as cool as they get. And the ultimate professional, too, is a great athlete and a great person, just human being. Yeah. And then in the figure skating realm, I also talked to Caitlin Osman a week before she went to Italy and won the world championship, which is pretty cool because she was all excited about it and a little nervous. Well, it's great that you can capture those things. So you look at Caitlin obviously going right before Italy, and then you look at Jamie with her amazing career, obviously, in the hype that came from 2002 and what happened in the Olympics there. I got to know Jamie and David too through her old former manager, Bob Stedward. I'm not sure if you remember. Also a guest on the show. He's been? Yeah. Well, see? That's awesome. So Dr. Bob I don't blame you. You've got a lot of things going on. Yeah. But I'll send you the link to Bob's as well. I'd love that very much. He was one of my favorite conversations. Oh, and the more time you spend with him, the more you realize just how friggin' cool the guy is and how many things that he's done. Like I think he's been to, what are there, 180 some countries in the world? Is that true? 140? Yeah, I think like 165 right in there. So he's been to like over 100 countries. But with his time on the IOC and the International Paralympic Committee, like he's my go-to, my international friend will say, "Hey Bob, I'm going to France. What should I do?" "Oh, well, you need to go here, blah blah blah." Yeah. "Hey Bob, I'm going to go to Belgium. What should I do?" "Hey Bob, I'm going to the Philippines. What should I do?" "Oh, do this." He's one of the coolest guys. And to do that with almost zero recognition, like globally, right? Like on those stages, in those circles, he's got great recognition. But like the average person hasn't heard his name. He never once did it for the fame, the glory, any of that. And to help so many disabled people achieve their dreams is just like such an incredible feat. And that's a true testament to this city of Edmonton, and maybe call it the unsung heroes of this community. I mean, he was top 100 Edmontonians during the Centennial, top 100 Albertans and stuff like that. But he's got a Stedward Center, but how many others are there that are making a gigantic difference in Alberta and in Edmonton that aren't as famous as some of the other people? Yeah. Well, so what did he do for you back in the day? Was he like a manager or He was my the second manager I ever had. The first manager I ever had was Danny Hooper. And Danny is, an amazing entertainer and great personality. He taught me a lot of great things. I just needed someone who's going to be more full-time, so that's where Bob Stedward came in. So Dr. Bob, I would meet at CVS Controls here in Edmonton, and in Lyle Kurtz's office, and Bob would help me make game plans and a list of goals. And it was at that time where my mom, who's very involved in my career, said, you should, why don't you manage Brett, Bob? And I said, Bob, why don't you manage me? And he said, well, like every good man, he says, well, I have to check with my wife. Because I think you've just retired. And his time with Jamie and David had just kind of come to an end. And I think he wanted to spend more time with his grandkids and go hunting and do stuff with rodeo. So that's where we were able to convince Bob to manage me, and he managed me from, I think, 2006 to 2010. And the best 5 years. They were just so special. So he did manage me. He was my agent, my manager, and my accountant, too. So he taught me about finances. He taught me about everything. And there's so many things I learned from Bob that I practice
today, now in 2018, I give him significant credit.
He said he one thing he said about you is that, he said a few things, but one thing he said to bring up is the fact that he tried to help you stop speeding so much in your truck.
He tried, but it didn't help. That's what happens. I mean, you're 16, you get your license. Why go 100 kilometers when you can go $140?
Right.
And so that was the thing. So we, and then he also had I would get from the city of Edmonton, a lot of parking tickets because I just didn't believe in plugging the meter, or I'd plug the meter and then I'd wind up staying overnight at Cecilia's house, my girlfriend at the time, who later became my wife, and just stay overnight and get all these $50 tickets. And so that was one thing he tried to get under control. So
you grew up in Flat Lake, and when did you move to Edmonton?
The day after graduation.
Oh, okay. You got right out of
Literally. So I graduated on Friday. Interesting story. Friday I graduated, and then I partied all night, and then at the after grad, it was 5 a.m. My dad picked me up, and Dr. Bob, in my Brett Kissel truck, sponsored from Driving Force, with the Brett Kissel on the side. And so they picked me up in that, it was a 2008 GMC Sierra 3/4 ton diesel, and I was hungover and I slept in the back seat. And we drove all the way up to Grand Prairie, where I played Bud Country, and I played that festival on Saturday. That would have been like June 29th. Then Sunday, June 30th, I drove back to St. Paul, where for grad, my mom and dad bought me luggage, and they also packed all my things. It was packed. It was waiting in the garage. And Sunday night, I drove into St. Albert, where I lived for 1 year with Jackie Ray Greening from CFCW. She took me and I lived in her basement.
That's amazing.
So I literally graduated on Friday. I moved out on Sunday, June 30th or whatever that date was.
Yep.
And I haven't been home to live since.
And played a show in between those two things.
Played a show.
Hungover as hell.
I wore my tuxedo on stage. I swear to God I did.
Slept in it, wore it on stage.
Slept in it, worn it. I didn't throw up, I don't think.
How'd you play?
I might have still been drunk. I don't really remember much about the show.
Yeah.
But I do remember doing shots with my band to celebrate my graduation, a few other artists that were there, and the boys from the band Lone Star. They all came backstage because we all had those Atco trailers backstage. Brought some of the boys from the band Lone Star, and there we were doing shots of what my guitar player at the time, Clint Pelche, called the Prince Albert Special, which was a shot of whiskey followed by a chaser of pickle juice. And
so pickleback.
Pickleback, which is now in many bars. But
the Prince Albert Special. So that must have to you seemed like the pinnacle. Like you're like, I'm a rock star now.
100%.
And I think things have probably changed a little bit since then.
Well, yeah. Now you realize that the real good moments in music aren't, and this is all materialistic, but it isn't necessarily drinking picklebacks or whatever backstage when you're playing the festival at 1 p.m. where nobody's in the crowd and nobody cares about you.
Right.
The real pinnacle is now playing the great arenas or headlining the festivals.
And remembering them.
And or having to be conscious, because I always thought that we'd really celebrate and party after headlining these big festivals. But now you play one on Friday, then you got to fly because you're going to play another one on Saturday, then you got to fly, you got to do another one on Sunday. So our parties are actually few and far in between because we're traveling so much these days. Right.
And you just got off a plane and came straight here, which I'm very much appreciative for.
My pleasure.
Out in Vancouver. What brought you out there?
I was meeting with my business managers, and we were talking about, we were that song tour. We were just going over budget and what would have been accomplished in probably 100 emails. I just got on a flight and we sat down for an entire day, and we just went line by line and just really organized where these expenses went. And it was important because when you're in the heart of the tour and money's coming in and money's going out, at the end, I looked at, quite frankly, the mistakes that I made and the places where I overpaid, and the things that I did wrong, so that when we start the tour up again and we do it at the end of 2018, I know exactly what I'm not going to do. Right. And then again, what I'm going to keep doing or start doing to make things better.
What are you overspending on? Are you like blowing stuff up on stage? You got big pyrotechnics, or is it the boring things?
It's the boring things.
2-ply instead of 1-ply.
Well, it's for me a lot of it was flights. If I was smarter to think, so what I did is I flew spouses out to be a part of the tour with my band members. I would also fly myself on certain days off to, with my family to a different location where we could spend extra time. Nothing against the community of, Thunder Bay, Ontario, or Brandon, Manitoba, but if we could spend that time in Winnipeg or a city where we can do more things,
right,
that's what we did. So as flights, I overspent on flights because instead of flying somebody from a remote location like Fort St. John, BC, if I'd have just waited a day, we'd have been in Kelowna, which is an easier destination. But of course, you don't think about that.
Right.
But I'll know about that for the next time.
And these are things that you probably never thought you'd be thinking of either, right?
Well, but back to Bob Stedward days, like you got to be on top of all this stuff. And in the Canadian music industry, it's not about how much money you make. It's all about how much money you keep.
Okay.
Because, tours and touring and gross revenue is at the high end in the low millions, or in the $700,000-$900,000 in gross revenue. So I mean, we are some of the biggest Canadian stars are like fourth line grinders in the NHL, and at any given moment you're going back to the AHL. It's very, very difficult to get that $7-8 million a year, or the Connor McDavid money of whatever it's 12, 13, or 10. I don't know what it is. That doesn't exist in country music unless you break in the United States. Right. So we have to be very conscious, because $900,000 sounds like a lot of money, and I'm not saying that that's what I make or I don't make or whatever. It's just, it's very easy to spend $875,000 on expenses.
Yeah, of course. You have to spend a lot to make a lot, especially in those big, high-risk sort of venues and ventures, right?
And music is all about that, because you want to put on the best show, and sometimes that costs money. Right. And you also need to compete, because the fan who's going to pay $50 to see me will also pay $50 to see Tim McGraw, and he's got millions of dollars worth of budget to put all the bells and whistles into his show in Edmonton. So when I play in Edmonton, how can I compete? You got to try to walk that fine line. Right.
And do you ever struggle reconciling sort of the creative, artistic side and then sort of the business side of it? Like,
the challenge for me is I spend too much time on business and not enough time on creative, to be honest. Which, as an artist, I should be thinking a lot more creatively, but my brain doesn't go there. My brain goes to marketing. My brain goes to planning the tour and to do what I can to entertain. Whereas I'm really proud that I've got great band and great producers who can help coach me when I'm writing songs, or help coach me when I'm recording, to make the music compelling, because after all, if it's not for the music, you can't have the show. Yeah.
And you write a lot about your own experiences, and I think a lot of people look at a country star and they sometimes think, like, is that real? Is that authentic? But man, like, you lived it.
100%. And I think that's maybe why I've been successful in music, is because I'm not making up these stories, so that if I am in an interview, or if I am on stage and I'm talking about why this song matters to me, or why I think this song should be important to you, the audience, I can talk about that and come from a place of authenticity and something genuinely from my heart, not to be too mushy, but that is the great thing about country music, that pop and rock, and to a lot of degrees, these guys are creating great melodies, but what does it really mean? Is there an actually true story to it? Rap, I actually believe, is very authentic.
Of course, yeah.
These guys are talking about, I did this, I felt this way, I think about this is who I am, take it or leave it. Country music is very similar, although the genres are far apart.
Right. And so growing up on a cattle ranch, as you did, were you big into that? Like, was there a point in your life where you thought you might go into ranching versus music?
There's a point in my life now, definitely, where I'm thinking about getting into ranching, because I love that way of life and I miss it so much. But when you're a kid, I think, like everybody, or most people, you can't wait to leave. I locked horns with my mom so much when I was a teenager. Again, probably similar to many stories, but I couldn't wait to get the hell out of St. Paul, Alberta, and go and chase my dreams and go play music. And I got very lucky that I was able to do that. But with that came distance. And although I was very proud of my roots, I wasn't putting my middle finger up to it. But I wanted to get out and play. Now, the more I talk about it in settings like this, or in an interview with Hello Canada or the Toronto Star, like, you come from a cattle ranch, tell us about, are you still there? I'm like, I come from a cattle ranch, but I haven't chased cattle in years. Right. You know?
Well, everyone grows and changes and moved, and I didn't go unnoticed that you mentioned me in the same breath as those other two people, so I appreciate that.
No, it's no problem. I respect your upbringing. I always wondered about people who grow up in hockey because it's a very interesting life. It's a very high life, I would assume, and it's something that not a lot of people can relate to. So my kids growing up in music is something that I don't know if a lot of other kids growing up will be able to relate to, all the travel that we do and the access
for
that we
sure,
have.
right?
So I've always been interested in talking with other people about their upbringings because I'm now trying to collect that and take this advice and take it to my kids. So, like, did you live in New York?
No, so
at a time, or were you always based in Edmonton?
So I had a different upbringing than many people expect. So I grew up with my mom out in Vancouver, not with my dad.
Gotcha.
And then when I was 1 or 2, that's when my dad met his current wife, and so I kind of lived this duplicity of life. Like I grew up with her, like very humble, just sort of only child, single mom. So I got that aspect of it. But then every year, a couple weeks a year, I'd get to go live sort of like with my dad's side of the family, and I'd get the 4 siblings, and I got the family, the big family, the hockey, the boat on the lake, all those kind of things. So I come from a place of understanding sort of both sides of that spectrum, and I really appreciate it. I would never have wanted it any other way, but people go like, oh, what was it like growing up with a hockey player as a dad? And you kind of go, well, that's...
See, I didn't realize that.
You're like, that's all I know. You're like, I don't really know anything different. Oh, is that hard, your parents not being together? Well, no, because I don't remember anything different, right? I always felt, empathy for the people whose parents split up when they were anywhere from like 9 to 15. Like in those real formative years where you're dramatic and the hormones and everything is just seeming like the biggest deal in the world. And you see those kids now that, like, if you take on mentorship roles to these kids, and you want to say, look, none of this shit matters. But you also have to let them live it. You have to let them make their own mistakes.
For sure,
right?
and let them go through the roller coaster of emotions. And there are a few things in movies that actually really get me, and that's actually when the parents split up and stuff. You can see that on the kids, and when love is lost like that, it's always difficult. But I think I've always respected the kids who come out of that and just don't dismiss it, but chalk it up as this was my experience. It's just the way that it was.
It's reality.
And stuff like that. It's reality.
I know people whose parents split up when they were, I think, like 18. And it was funny because, like, I came back from my first year of university, and my parents were like, yeah, by the way, we're splitting up. And it was like, okay, what? Like, like no conception of it. But I think I really truly believe you're going to see a lot more of this in this day and age, is that parents are going to stay together, raise the kids, get them to 18, 19, get them out into the world, and then split up, just because it's really hard to live that monogamous lifestyle for your whole life. It takes a lot of commitment and a lot of sacrifice, right?
Well, it really does, and no relationship is perfect. And I always wonder, what went down in previous generations. Well, that was a different time. There was no access. There was no other choice. Whereas now I think in this day and age where the world is so small, I see that there's so many people that have other choices for relationships. If it's not good, the grass actually may be greener on the other side. Often it isn't. But I do get why I think it's over now 50%, whatever the statistic is, that relationships don't stay together. But I do look at Cecilia, my wife, and I believe that we do have what it takes to go the distance and the long haul and be that couple that celebrates 50 years, which actually might be something very, very cool, because you fast forward 43 years from now when we hit 50 and shit, we might be like one of the only people around, because it's so popular for couples to split and stuff like that.
But I think what's important to realize is that for all the hundreds and thousands of people that split up and it didn't work for them, there's also that percentage that never split up that should, right? That just come to bear it, and they just never either don't have the courage or think that it's blasphemy, because we're inundated with our previous generation's values, right?
That's right. And you see that in so many things, from marriage to how you raise your children to who you have in your life, and that's such an interesting topic and such an interesting direction to go down, because it's in 2018 and beyond. I wonder what my kids' generation will be like and what the norms will be, because a lot of these things are being, I think with our generation, you and me, like we now have the confidence to stop things that used to be tradition, and make our own, and take the good things out of it, and challenge, the status quo, and say, why do we need to do this? Why do we need to follow these things? Why do we need to, let's talk about a wedding. Why do we need to invite all these people just because they're a cousin? Or why do I need to get married in a church just because everybody did before us? That's not the way that we want to do it. And that's a great thing about our generation to a degree.
Or spend tens of thousands of dollars on these massive parties or however much on rings that really didn't mean anything back then, right? It's interesting. It's interesting to see where the world's going to go, and it's, your girls might have to reconcile the fact that living under your house until they grow up and leave, that might be the most affluent and best life they ever have in terms of everything's provided for them. But life is struggle, right? And it would mean nothing if there weren't a struggle. It would mean nothing if there weren't an end date to it.
And and that's circling back to country music. I think that's why I always enjoyed listening to it as much as I did. I mean, I grew up in a setting where country music was our lifestyle, but it always talked about the struggle. Country music always told a story. And I'm certainly drawn to that. And I think a lot of people, even now, who love the artists of today, like Florida Georgia Line or Sam Hunt or Thomas Rhett or Luke Bryan, Keith Urban, country music is still based around the story, and a lot of it has to do with struggle. It's a common thing that everybody goes through.
Right. And the artists, I think, that are able to bridge the gap from sort of the old but also to the new. I remember the first time I heard Brad Paisley's Online. Yeah. And that just blew my mind because I didn't grow up in a very country-rich environment in Vancouver, right? Of course. I still remember it was summer after grade 11, driving out to a yearly hockey festival out at this guy's ranch in Delta, not ranch, acreage in Delta. And my buddy who was a goalie, Alex, and he started playing this country music, and I'm like, country, man? Come on. I never listened to this in my life. And he's like, just give it a shot. 10 minutes in, we're singing, we're bouncing along. And then a couple years after that, I heard Online. I was like, this can be country too. You can talk about relevant things that I understand. This is amazing.
Well, Brad has been so great at walking that line and introducing the topics of today into obviously his music. And he does it so well because he's such a clever songwriter.
Right.
He's hilarious.
He's a genius.
He really is.
He's funny.
There's so many great lyrics in that. It's he's even adjusted it a little bit because the original lyrics in the late 2000s were but there's a whole lot of me that you need to see when you check out MySpace. Yeah. Where MySpace is gone. Right. Whereas now when he sings it, he says, when you check out my Facebook page.
Oh, interesting.
And so he's even adjusted the lyrics like that. But he's got a hilarious song called I think the selfie song, # the internet is forever. Yeah. And it's funny, he can do that, but you have to be aware that, some of those songs and some of the lyrics are going to be great for right now, but technology, if you talk anything about technology, it's probably going to be old news.
Of course. But what's great about that is nostalgia is one of the strongest elements ever, right?
Good point.
So when you think back to the album that always stands out to me is Big Shiny Tunes 2.
Yes.
That is
and my Big Shiny Tunes 4.
Yeah.
I love Big
because you're 2 years younger than me. You're 90, right?
I am.
I'm 88.
88?
That makes sense,
100%,
right?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something about that age range where you're imprinted with whatever was out at the time.
So what were the big hits on Big Shiny Tunes?
That was 2? Blur, Song 2.
Song 2.
Who else was on that? I got to pull up the list because it's Shiny Tunes 2. There's literally 4 of my all-time most impactful songs. So Blur, Song 2, Third Eye Blind, Semi-Charmed Kind of Life, Smash Mouth, Walking on the Sun, Sugar Ray, Fly, Brett Van Dyke, or Brand Van 3000, Drinking in LA.
See, I don't remember that song.
I'll play it for you later. Matchbox 20, Push.
Of course.
Oh my, we got to put this on. This will be amazing.
And you know what? And it's so great. I love getting together with friends and putting on these tracks from previous life. It's I remember in 2007 in grade 11 when we played the teachers in floor hockey in intramurals, and we ended up winning the school championship. And I can only imagine what it must be like for guys who actually play hockey, because I never did until since I was a little kid. Yeah. but guys are actually part of a team and you win something together. I'm talking about friggin' floor hockey here. And I still reminisce with my buddies. We have a group text.
Oh, yeah.
And we still go and we still beat the teachers when I go back to St. Paul about how we're the only student team to ever win in like 25 years.
Yeah.
And songs from that era just completely take us back to those moments.
Yeah. So, I mean, to that point, nostalgia, I don't think you ever have to worry about any of that tech stuff getting irrelevant, because it's just like, think back to even the songs from that era, like 07, 08, 09, like I think Soulja Boy and like 50 Cent. Those songs were so like, even the sound was so like
Flow Rider, low apple bottom jeans. Like that. I remember going to the Wetlander in Bonnyville, Alberta, and you know, because this is a podcast, I can say what everybody actually used to call it. Town, they didn't call it the Wetlander, they called it the Slutlander. Nice. And everybody would go and have just an amazing party there. It was so much fun getting a chance to play going a chance to just hang out there with your buds, and Flow Rider was one of those songs.
That's unbelievable. So have you ever done a rap collab?
No, but you know, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Well, you've heard Gin and Juice, the country version, right?
No.
Come on.
What are you talking about?
Are you serious, man? Come on.
Have I been living under a rock? Well, like, who did it?
I just got to keep a list. It was a bunch of guys. I got to keep a list of things that I need to send you. It was... Let's just play it for you.
Okay.
After the ad here. I'm trying to remember who it was. This is why I need a young Jamie from the Joe Rogan podcast. I need someone to look stuff up for me.
For sure.
While we're talking. I can't believe you've never heard this. It's like, it's Gin and Juice with the country twang to it.
Was it done by somebody famous?
Yep.
So much drama in LBC, it's kind of hard being Snoopy.
Does that sound familiar?
It sounds twangy, but
I'm trying to remember who it was. I feel like it's listed here as Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney, Garth Brooks.
Garth would never do that, but that's hilarious.
I don't know who did it, but... And it goes on for the...
That is awesome.
So you got to do something.
I got to check that out.
What's one rap song you would do?
Something by Eminem, or maybe D12, Purple Pills.
Yeah, that would be good.
Which would be the opposite of what anybody would think that I would do.
Of course, but that's shock value.
Yeah.
It's important.
I've been so many places. I've seen so many faces. The little bit of banjo twang.
Yeah.
Compared
you have to do this.
Yellow, purple pills.
When does the tour start back up?
In September. We're going to go to the territories.
You can easily have that done by September. I
wonder if I could, who I'd collab with.
Yeah.
To help.
Let's think about this.
Or at the same time, often you've got rap in the verses, and then you'll have a melodic chorus. That would be an interesting collab that I'd love to do with somebody, you know, a friend of mine in the business is Cardinello Fasciale, and he's excellent. He did a lot of work with Akon. Akon is another one who was big in 2006, 7, 8,
and then
9.
he just disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know where he is.
Well, I think he started doing a bunch of work in Africa, like charity stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I heard at least one time, and who knows with stuff you hear. This was before fake news, so it could be true.
I literally ran into Nelly in the Air Canada Lounge in Toronto.
Come on
like March 26th, or I've come back from Niagara.
What's that like when you run into another famous person and you both, like, did you know him before that?
No, I'd never met him, but I always try to think, if I actually do want to meet them or go talk with them. If I know them, then of course I'll go talk with them. But if I haven't met them before, I always try to think of what do we have in common,
right?
And what could get their interest or their attention. So with him, like, I'd done some shows with Florida Georgia Line, and I know all the guys that write with Florida Georgia Line's company and Tree Vibes Music and Big Loud Entertainment in Nashville. So I know that Nelly is real good buddies with Brian and Tyler. So that was the first thing that I did. I said, hey, my name's Brett, whatever. I write with a bunch of guys from Tree Vibes. It's like, Tree Vibes, awesome, you know.
You had the Band-Aid on?
And then he didn't, I don't think, but he had the do-rag on.
Wow, you didn't I'm surprised you recognized him without the Band-Aid.
Yeah, but it's my band who recognized him. They were like, "Oh, that's Nelly. That's Nelly." I'm like, "I'm gonna go talk to him." No, don't go talk to him. And they all just like melted into like little kids.
Isn't that weird? Like how that happens. You meet someone famous and who you idolize, and your brain just shuts off.
Yeah.
Like, why would I say that? That was so dumb.
That happens to me and athletes.
Yeah.
To be honest, it'll never happen in music or like actors or stuff like that, because I think I kind of know their world. But athletes, like, I don't know. I remember, and we become buddies now. But like, I really think I screwed up meeting Taylor Hall, Nuge, and Ebbs for the first time at the CCMA Awards. Like, I was just an idiot. I'm like, oh man, I'm your biggest fan. It's so good to meet you.
You did not say that. You did not say
I said it was stupid. And good thing they were probably drunk, so they probably don't remember.
Right.
But now they're going to listen to this podcast. They're going to remember. But
hey, if you want to send it to them, go ahead. Yeah. But that's one thing I also think of. Like, if you're Connor McDavid right now, or any uber famous athlete or musician or whatever, you're probably so used to people acting weird around you. That's got to be a tough life. Like, to have constantly people like acting weird. It's got to make you feel a little self-conscious.
100%. It's got to. It would make everybody. It makes me feel weird when people are weird, because just be normal because I'm normal.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't realize that, or the biggest thing, they don't expect to see you in a setting like the grocery store or the airport or walking up and down West Edmonton Mall. Like, so it's very, very interesting. And my wife can pick it out quicker than I can. I'm so naive, I guess. I'm just living my life. And she'll literally like be like, "Oh, just so you know, somebody's coming up to you, red sweater, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "How do you know this?"
6 o'clock.
Right, red sweater, 6 o'clock. And yeah, it's, people definitely get weird, but it is what it is.
So what tactics do you use to sort of diffuse that? Is there anything you figured out that just puts people at ease, other than being your charming self? Like, goddamn, does it get tiring and exhausting to be as charming as you all the time?
It's very nice of you to say, but I'm just trying to be normal and really just try to make it less awkward.
Yeah.
So that when someone's like talking, I'll always ask where they're from, what they're doing today, and let them talk about themselves, so that way it'll really diffuse it. So, for example, like, we were in the Eaton Centre in Toronto. We're walking out of, I think, Roots or Marks or something. I think we were coming out of Marks by the Canadian Tire. And people had seen me, because I put on social media that it's, like, great to go out and mall walk and stuff like that. And I think said something about, like, being normal and blah, blah, blah. And here's my Starbucks coffee and blah, blah. And then all of a sudden...
you?
people tracked me. So at first Cecilia thought that's really weird, and she ducks out. She's like, I'm out. There's people at 6 o'clock. I'm going to get a taxi and I'll go back to the hotel.
You're on your own.
I'm going to go to the food court and I'm going to hide in the corner. Call me when you're done, because she knows that I'll stay, and I'll stay for half an hour with people.
And that's so important. Like, that makes the biggest impact on people.
Yeah.
I remember being with my dad at West Edmonton Mall. I must have been like 6, 7, maybe 8. And it was after one of those Oilers practices that they used to have at the mall. And we were packing up, ready to go. And there was just a mob of people. And he stayed, I don't know, I was a kid, so it felt like a lot longer probably. But it felt like an hour that he stayed and signed autographs and took pictures and all that stuff. And
well, I really respect that story and respect your dad for doing that, because as athletes, you guys don't have to do that. Like, he doesn't have to do that. His job is not for public appeal. His job is to put the puck in the net, or if you're a goaltender, to stop the puck. Like, your job is just to be there, whereas my job is all about public appearance and making sure that I keep the fans happy. Whereas if you're playing music, you just keep your coach and your GM happy. That's really all you need to do.
Right.
So for him to do that, and the athletes that do that and have that amazing rapport with their fans, is extremely important and very special, because I don't think it's that common.
That's an interesting way to put it. I've never really thought about it that way, that they don't really have a duty, at least in terms of their career, to do that. But, you know, do you feel that they're role models, that they have some duty to society to at least be good people?
Absolutely. I think it's just being responsible, and I think it's just maturity, and a lot of it is gratitude as well. That sometimes in those situations, you want to get going, you're busy, you've got someplace to be, but what a grateful situation to be in a place where people do want to meet you, want your autograph, and want to share a story about how much they love you because of what you do on the ice or that song that you wrote.
Right.
So with that said, is there a bit of a responsibility? To a degree, but not as much with athletes, which is why, especially in a guy like Connor McDavid's situation, who is as nice as they get, you know what, I do feel bad for him in situations when you go out for dinner, or I've been out for dinner with him and some of the guys, and there's literally a lineup in the restaurant of people waiting, and it's like, this is not the time or place. Let these guys be normal. Their job isn't necessarily to the fans. Their job is, they're just great athletes, and their job is to do that.
Right. There's a time and place for it.
Correct.
Obviously.
It's 11:30 p.m. at such and such restaurant. It's their job is done. Let them unwind.
Some people, I think, they just don't want to miss a chance, right? Like,
True.
Not everyone comes across them every day, and you get, again, your brain shuts off, right? So it goes both ways. I think for the fans, they need to understand these are human beings too, and they've got families and lives and everything. But for the athletes too, I think they need to realize like the power and the impact they have on people and their ability to just totally shake someone's reality because they're so just infatuated with what they do as a career. And then I think on the athlete side too, it's and even musicians and actors, for example, like when you get such fame at such a young age, and then you're not mature. Like you really don't start. Some people mature earlier, right? Yeah. But you really don't start realizing, and it's really when you realize how much you don't know that's when you start getting the most maturity. For sure. But like at 18, who's got that? So Taylor Hall or Eberle or whoever coming in at 18 years old with millions of dollars. Yeah. It must warp your reality, and it must be really hard to stay grounded. Well,
for sure, and I think that's why you have to have a great network of friends and family around you. That your circle of friends and has actually grown so much now that you're an athlete, and now that you're here and you've got the people from your sponsorship world, from the team, from high school, from everything. It's as big as all of Rogers Place, but the friends that really matter, that are really in that inner circle, or maybe as small as your fist, and it's those boys that can keep you grounded. It's your parents or your aunts and uncles that are going to call your bullshit just because you're making $6 million.
Right.
Doesn't mean anything. My grandpa was a big advocate like that for me, where there were a couple times where I genuinely just wanted to sleep in coming home on the farm. And he said, if you came here to sleep, go back and find some hotel, or he would say, hey, you ain't no country star on the farm. So I love those stories, but when it comes back to the responsibility, yes, an athlete has the opportunity to make things better or make the day for that young fan and stuff like that. And most Canadians and most hockey players, if not probably every hockey player, actually does that, which is very special. But then you go to the pop stars and the rock stars in LA, and it just gets different because the fans are different there too. And I think fans in Edmonton, for example, do respect the Edmonton Oilers and are good, other than that bullshit that you saw in the news, heckling Connor and his family. That was just stupid. I hated that.
I hated that it happened, but I'm happy that it came out. And some people said that, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but my point of view is that it shows at least the rest of the public that these guys put up with a lot of shit on a regular basis, right? And while that's
a great point.
That might have been an exaggerated version of it, but the fact of the matter is, like, every day, like I said before, people are acting weird and doing silly things around you. And so as a fan, if you understand that, you might think twice, right? You might be like, do I really want to be that guy? Do I really want to come across as that? Yes, I'm not heckling him, but maybe he looks tired. It's 11:30 p.m. and we're at a restaurant. And he's with Brett Kissel, who he might be a huge fan of and want that intimate one-on-one time, right? So I think it goes both ways.
For sure. No, it's an interesting perspective, and obviously, I think where I'm coming from is seeing things on both sides. Luckily, as Canadians, is that there's this element of humbleness, and people are, for the most part, other than that shitty example, but people are definitely a lot more polite here in Canada than other places that I've been in the world.
That's good to know. So who's your inner circle? Who are your sort of go-tos that keep you grounded, that call you on your shit?
My wife is number one. My grandparents, big time. My big brother Jameson, he never has necessarily gotten into, to say, hold your horses and stuff like that, but I know that I could count on him in that regard. And then I think Jordan Eberle's wife Lauren, for sure, as well as two of our really good friends, Troy and Danielle Huntley from Edson. Danielle is Cecilia's best friend, and thus Troy's become one of my best friends.
Right.
I got a cousin named Carter. He's super, super close. My cousin Kylie. I don't know, there's probably like 10 people. And then, honestly, like my tour manager, Kevin, although he's an employee, he's a guy who could give two shits about who I am or who I think I am.
Right.
He's a great coach in that regard, because sometimes he's even extra hard on me when he doesn't need to be. Like, there's a moment to celebrate, and he's the kind of guy who's like, well, yeah, you better celebrate because it's probably going to be all gone in a couple of years. So, it really keeps a guy grounded.
Yeah. I think that's what they say about some of the best coaches is they know when to be hard and when to let off the gas a little bit, right? Like, be extra hard on them after a good win, right?
Yeah.
But when things are bad, when you're on a 3-4 game losing streak, maybe pull off and be like, guys, just relax, get your head straight, do it. Is it the same? Like, what's touring like for you? Is it just a gong show, or is it relaxing? Like, where does that spectrum fall?
I've been involved in both. My very first tour, gong show. We didn't know where the bus was going to park. Sometimes we didn't book our hotels in advance. Some shows were sold out, some shows tanked. Some were bars, some were casinos, some were theaters. It was just chaos. But you learn from that.
Of course.
And I would never trade that for anything. But then you have our last tour. It was so smooth with no challenges at all. Like, I've never had a tour that was almost as perfect as this one.
Is that the one you just came off of, or the one before?
Because the one that we were just on, because everybody knew their role. We had amazing staff in place. And when you do that many shows, we got into such a routine. We did, 54 concerts in 72 days. And it was like, we had it down, and it was such a well-oiled machine. Everybody knew what to do. Everybody knew when to give space. Everybody knew when to let loose. It was perfect. So with that said, there was not a lot of coaching that needed to be done, other than a couple reminders from myself as kind of the leader of the group, or Kevin, our tour manager, to say, okay, guys, we're in the middle of 11 shows in 8 days. So we were doing 2 shows in a day sometimes, pulling a Garth.
Yeah.
And so we're like, I don't want anybody to drink if possible. Health is extremely important. Everybody's getting their sleep. Like, we got to get through this. We're going in the trenches here, boys.
Yeah.
Let's get
your heads on straight. Yeah.
And then there were some times where we'd call each other out. We knew we had 3 days off, and we just did that. And we said, all right, boys, here's a bottle of fine whiskey. We're getting into it because we're going to celebrate this, because nobody in Canadian country has just done what we just did. So it's time to celebrate. And a couple guys were like, no, I think I'm just going to call it a night. Screw that. You're partying. If you're part of the band, you do as we say. And we all prop each other up. And then, so I love my group.
What was the accomplishment that no Canadian artist has done?
Well, the amount of shows that we did.
Oh, I see.
The biggest Canadian tour that was ever done was, I think, 48 dates, and it was Paul Brandt, Small Towns, Big Dreams tour. So we did 54, and we got an award from the Canadian Music Association and stuff like that, with it, and selling gold, essentially 50,000 tickets, and everything, and all these shows. So we are going a little extra crazy because we feel that somebody could probably beat our record, because we're only 4 or 5 off of the previous record.
Right.
So we're going to probably add another 50 concerts for the fall of this year. And every town and city we didn't play on the first time through, we're going to come back and we're going to do it.
That's unbelievable. You're smashing this record.
100%.
You've already beat
double it. We're going to double it. Because no one will ever beat it.
That's incredible.
That's our goal.
So what's your pre-concert routine? Do you have anything specific that you do that maybe the fans don't typically see?
Well, it's busy. Most days are so busy. This is my schedule, especially in the major markets where there's radio. Our bus will leave the previous venue at probably 2 a.m, drive 3-4 hours to get to the next city, so it's 6. I'm up with my girls who are on our bus.
They come on tour with you?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah, which is awesome, because if I was on the road that much, I mean, my daughters would have grown up with, on FaceTime. I would have, which is another reason why I truly feel for a lot of the athletes who travel so much.
Can't bring your wives and kids.
You can't.
Yeah.
Which is why I wanted to establish a set of precedents for country music and for my band as well, that everybody was allowed to bring their spouse and their family.
Wow.
And we just coordinated different weeks. where everybody came, because we were on the road for 14, 15 weeks.
It's unbelievable.
So when our schedules, when we get to the venue at 5, 6 in the morning, I'm up with the girls, and we have a little breakfast. I change, brush my teeth, I go and I do morning media. So I'll always hit, and I don't have to, but I love hitting morning media because that's when most people listen to the radio.
Right.
So I hit the radio station by 7. We're usually on TV by 8. And then I'll do media till about 10 or 11. I will come back to the venue, and that's where I'll have my morning meetings with Kevin, my tour manager, Becky, my assistant. Becky tells me who's coming to the show, who the VIPs are, who the sponsors are, who are the important people, because maybe 6 months ago I promised this kid that I would get him a ticket to my show in Regina.
Right, so she tracks all that.
So she tracks all that and says, by the way, little kid is coming, blah, blah, blah. By the way, your grandparents have put four of their friends from such and such city. So we go through that list. Kevin tells me, we're making money on today's show, we're losing money on today's show, and then we'll also do like the next couple shows. Says, oh, by the way, Winnipeg tomorrow, you're sold out, so you might want to send a tweet out.
Right.
So it's all that. We do that for 2 hours. Now it's 1 p.m. Now I sound check. So I sound check with my band. We do that, and load in is going on while I'm meeting with my staff. And sound check is usually from 1 till 3. Then I go back into the bus, spend some time with my family from like 3 till 4:30. Then 4:30 to 5:30 is my time. That's where I get my head in the game. I usually don't talk. A little bit of social media. I shower. I change.
What do you do? Ready. Just relax, sit, chill, social media? Do you read ever?
I don't usually read, but I just kill time. Sometimes I'll do it with another one of my band members who has time. And I won't talk to save my voice, but usually we play crib. We just play cards. And so we play cards for about an hour, and I've already got myself ready because 5:30 or 6 o'clock it's meet and greet. So now the sponsors come in, the VIPs come in, fans come in who want. I do meet and greet from about 6 to 7:30, which is a long time because I spend time, I talk to everybody. Now, you might be exhausted by now, but now it's 8 o'clock, it's showtime. So I play the show from 8 till 10, then sometimes I'll do autographs, or we kind of debrief, I talk with the guys, this is what went well, this is what didn't go good, we do that from 10 to 11. Go back onto the bus, I watch Sex and the City with my wife, or we pick a different series. We finish The Office on the tour, we finish Sex and the City on the tour. I do that till midnight. Then I go to sleep, and we drive out at about 1 in the morning. We get to the next venue by 4 or 5. I'm up with the girls. We start it again.
Do it all over again.
And you do that 53 days in a row.
How many times do you wash your hands in a day? Because I'm just thinking all these people you're meeting, you can't afford to get sick on tour.
Just Purell,
just
man.
Purell constantly.
And it's I've got a good essential oil diffuser, whatever, that I put in my teeth. And I have a different one. Some of it is, a lot of it might be bullshit. I don't know if people actually believe in it.
Placebo effect is real, man.
It's like some of it is for strength, some of it is for immune system, some of it is for immunity, some of it is for peace, some of it. So I kind of think about what I want that day, and shit, I really need some strength, or I really need to calm myself down.
It's a good way to focus and dial in, because so often we just go through life not thinking, what do I need? And that's a good way to focus on yourself.
And I meditate in that hour too.
Interesting, okay.
It's only like 5 or 10 minutes. But I'll
guided or just silent?
Just on my own. Or sometimes I'll and some of these dressing rooms are dungy, man. But I'll lay on the floor in the coffin position. I'll just put my arms over top, kind of cross my legs, close my eyes, deep breaths. And sometimes I think about nothing, and I'll literally go. And my cousin Maddie, guitar player, said he was like, "I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out," and it just calms me down. Or I'll think about, this is all the shit you need to do. Make sure you get it organized. Once you're done this thing, you're going to make a list, and you're going to take on the day.
But the former is what meditating is really about, right? That flow of thoughts in and then out without latching on to any particular one.
Which I don't know how to properly meditate.
Well, you've got it half the time.
People just tell me that's what you got to do. But
has anyone ever walked in on you like this and
all the time,
and they just think, shit, we finally killed Brett. He's had enough.
Well, no, people think that I die in airports all the time because I can sleep at the drop of a hat. And I assume the coffin position, and I sleep in airports.
Why that?
Just so I can stay warm. And sometimes I'll put my hands under my armpits.
Okay, I can see that. This is funny.
And I can get warm. But because I don't like my arms dangling, and sometimes I don't have a lot of space. So I got to go like this. So lately, Cecilia's taken some pictures. I've been sleeping like that in my king-size bed because I'm used to the bus. and just to our bunks, and I'm still sleeping like this. And she's like, "You're an idiot."
She's got to start posting like vampire Brett photos.
I know. Yeah, it's legit. And I always sleep with my mouth open, like a dead cow.
Yeah.
Like I'm probably the ugliest sleeper.
That makes you ripe for messing with by your bandmates, I'm sure.
It's happened.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I don't know if we get into that necessarily, but there are some great pranks that happen on the road. I can only imagine what other bands do, but we don't hold back.
That's good. And have you been with the same band for a long time now? Yeah.
And I think that's what's great is being with my group. As long as I've been, you just develop this camaraderie and a true brotherhood. Like these guys are just, they're family. They really are.
Yeah. One story I wanted to ask you about was the Johnny Cash story.
Yeah.
Because I think that's so incredible, and I think it's touching, it's sad, it's a lot of things, but walk us through that a little bit if you can.
Well, I always loved Johnny Cash and still do. So when June Carter passed away, that was a hard thing for me.
That was his wife.
And correct, yeah. She passed away in May of 2003. And she was healthy. She wasn't supposed to die before Johnny. I think a lot of people were expecting the Man in Black to pass away. But when she died, I wrote him a letter on yellow lined paper. And I put it in the mail. I don't remember what I wrote, but it was a couple pages probably. And I put it in the mail, and I addressed it to the Johnny Cash Fan Club, Hendersonville, Tennessee. Having been to Nashville a couple times, I knew he lived in Hendersonville. I knew he lived on Old Hickory Lake or around that area. So when I saw his fan club on the back of a old record of my grandma and my grandpa's, I figured I had a shot because he lives in Hendersonville. This wasn't the Johnny Cash Fan Club Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So I wrote him a letter, forgot all about it. That's it. In the meantime, between May and the fall, over the course of that summer, I recorded my first album.
At 12 years old.
At 12. Right? And it was a cassette called Keepin' It Country.
Was it by design or was that the technology?
That was just the technology. No. I had some CDs, but everybody still drove around in our hometown with cassettes.
Fair enough.
So we had to get cassettes.
They want to play Brett. They got to get a cassette player.
So we got cassettes. And on this cassette were songs by Jim Reeves and obviously a lot of Johnny Cash. Tennessee Flat Top Box, Big River, a few other tracks. So I recorded this album, and now my mom and our family and myself are organizing a CD release party and an album release party in Glendon, Alberta at the RCMP Hall. And my mom woke me up on Friday, September the 12th, 2003. She said, I got some great news and I got some sad news. Now, the great news already was that I didn't have to go to school that day on this Friday because I had a big concert to prepare for. And she said, the good news is that your concert has sold out. Which, to put in perspective, we sold 500 tickets in a village of 300 people.
Amazing.
So, it was a
doing something right.
Great night for burglars in that town. But we celebrated that, and I said, well, what's the bad news? And she said, well, the sad news is that Johnny Cash passed away this morning. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, like hearing like a grandparent had passed away. Because from the time I learned to play guitar at 6, 7, I was playing Johnny Cash music for more than half my life. And he was my everything. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I cried, and I made this plan that night. I was going to do a Johnny Cash medley. I was going to wear all black, my black cowboy hat. And my dad came back from work. My dad, also a school teacher, came home from work and went straight to Glendon, to the hall where we were putting on this concert, setting up chairs and planning our event. And he handed me a stack of mail. Inside I had, congratulatory cards from cousins and aunts and uncles, and a big yellow envelope that I opened, and inside was a signed 8x10 from Johnny Cash, and it said, to Brett, Jesus first, Johnny Cash. And I received that on Friday, September 12th, 2003, the day that he died. And I'll never, ever, ever forget that. And it's like, looking back now, I feel that like it's his hand was on me, on my shoulder that night. And that was a moment in time that showed me that what I'm doing is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. And Johnny Cash has kind of been there every step of the way to a degree, although I never met him.
That's like his way of saying, I'm not going to meet you, but I'm here for you. I'm here with you.
I think so.
That's unbelievable.
And I do believe in heaven, and I do believe that I choose to believe that the souls, or, that my grandparents who passed away years ago, are obviously up there and have their hands on me and helping guide me through the difficult times and celebrating in the great things that have happened. But I believe that a guy like Johnny Cash and June have become good friends with my grandparents, probably playing cards, and my grandpa's probably drinking whiskey with the Man in Black right now.
And your grandpa's calling him on his shit up there. It's
exactly.
Like, you ain't no country star up in heaven.
Up in heaven, exactly. And it's just amazing that some people can go through life and just believe that when it's done, it's done. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. But for me, I believe that when our physical life is done, that you just go and you meet with your family and those who've passed on before you.
Yeah.
So Johnny Cash is up there. I think he's waiting for me, my grandparents.
Well, hopefully he waits a long time.
Yeah. Hopefully he waits a long time. Sure.
One of my favorite quotes on that is from a book called Legacy about the All Blacks, and it's, your legacy isn't what's left behind on your tombstone, it's what you weave into the lives and the being of the people that are left behind.
It's amazing.
And it's just incredible to think that we can make such an impact on people, even if we've only met them once, 100 times, and as they go on, it's just, I don't know, it's just wild.
I think that's a really, really great quote, and I think that to a degree, you've already embarked on that legacy project, which is these conversations that you're having with people from Edmonton and area, meeting them, telling their stories, because who's to say that someone wouldn't be inspired by what you spoke about with Dr. Bob or with
Hopefully.
Jamie Soleil and everything. So you're creating that opportunity. So that's really cool.
Or at least to quit that job that they hate and go try something else, like producing a movie or a documentary.
Now, so when did you make your career change from...
August 2016.
Okay, and what were you doing before?
I worked in hockey right out of university. I worked for the World Juniors. Okay. Paul Brandt, I was there. That's where this jersey is from.
Nice.
And then I worked at a sport academy for a couple of years in Calgary, managing their programs. They had 7 hockey teams in a school of 300 kids. Okay. It was insane. So I did all the facility rentals, all the gear, all their travel, their scheduling, all that stuff.
Man. So you were like a tour manager.
I was a tour manager, essentially. I just didn't get to go on tour and party because the kids were kids. So that would be weird. And then I did that for 2 years, and I looked at my boss, great guy, and I just thought, you know what, I don't even get to enjoy hockey doing this because I'm always behind the scenes. I'm in the bowels of the arena organizing volunteers or what have you. So if I'm going to be in Alberta, I may as well get in a bigger industry. So I jumped back to Edmonton. I worked at a transportation company. I don't know if you know Bruno Muller, Karen Transport. So I worked for Bruno's company for 2 years. Again, I got to that 2-year mark and just sort of thought to myself, this isn't for me for the rest of my life. I need something different. Yeah. So I quit that cold turkey and then just took a couple months, worked, bartended, managed part-time, and talked to a lot of people in different industries. And I think that is also part of the inception of this podcast because it's the first time I started going out and having real conversations with people. And so I got a call one day from a friend of mine who's a director. He owns Cortez and Have Mercy and Holy Roller. And he said, I know you're looking for a new career. Do you want to get into producing? You want to get in the film business? And I thought, yeah, okay, who doesn't? That sounds cool, but what am I going to do, right? He goes, don't you? You've already got all the skills for it. You know this. I've got a job for the Oilers that needs a producer. Little thank you fans video. Do you remember last year the video that played before the opening, that big epic one that showed Edmonton that was directed by Mike Maxis? So mine was the little one that showed right before that. It was a thank you fans one. It was thank you for being with us through all the hard times, the good times, the bad, etc. So I produced that. It worked well. I used that to get a job in Calgary. Worked down there for 3 months on a TV show. Real campy, sort of over-the-top mystery thriller. It was the real stories behind events that inspired movies. So Goodfellas, Amityville Horror, The Exorcist. It was about what actually inspired those movies. But it was and then you'll never guess what happened next. Cut to commercial. So I did that as a production manager, came back to Edmonton when that show was wrapped, worked on Mike's feature film that shot here last year, $3.5 million budget, Puppy Love, which is just finally wrapped post-production, which is exciting, so we'll get to see. And then I got on with Adam Scorgi for making Coco, the Grant Fuhr story, which we're very excited about. We're going to premiere it in September 2018. It's the first time I've announced that.
That's awesome.
So I want to give this to you, little Grant Fuhr gift.
And it's signed.
I don't think that's his real signature, but I'm gonna get it signed for you.
Well, that's really kind.
And then also...
Thank you very much.
Have you seen Ice Guardians yet?
No, but I'd love to.
If you still have a DVD player...
Which I do.
That's for you.
I love this.
So that came out 2 years ago, and that is widely regarded as the best hockey documentary of all time. Like it's driven enforcers to tears, both on screen and people watching it.
Well, I think it's really special that that you're able to get Dave Semenko. It's obviously one of the great Guardians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Adam, our producer, he said Semenko was just his favorite. They didn't plan for him to have so much screen time in Ice Guardians.
Yeah.
But his interview was just so good, and his story is so compelling, and he's so authentic that he took up more time in the film. And our biggest regret, it's not really a regret, but the biggest shame about the Grant Fuhr story is that we weren't able to get Dave for it.
Yeah.
So,
well, with all that said, obviously his legacy will live on, and that's the thing. Obviously, at his service, as I'm sure you recall, he was so well respected for mostly the roles that he played off the ice, and the friendships that he built and stuff like that. And that's where a legacy is woven into the fabric of people that
left behind.
I
love it. So
I can't wait to watch this. Thank you. I will watch that. I'll watch it tonight, to be honest.
Your performance at his memorial was just stunning, by the way. I remember that. And the story you told about him. Do you remember that?
I do.
Can you tell that again? Because that was incredible.
It's kind of a two-part thing. Earlier in the night, my aunt was there as my guest, and everybody was talking about how Dave had protected everyone on the ice and especially protected Gretz.
Yeah.
And I felt really proud of myself because I protected Dave Semenko from my family members, because Wayne was there in the chairman's, but my auntie wanted to meet Dave so bad because Dave was her hall pass. So, and knowing this, I just diffused the situation and just kept my auntie away from Dave Semenko and from the awkwardness, because she would have been that fan that we were talking about earlier. So I felt proud that I was a protector for Dave. But then I did my anthem, and that was the night that the mic quit.
Right.
One of the first guys I see as I step back off the ice, and it was this moment that I don't even remember how I felt after it, but everybody remembers the story of the mic quitting, and the entire audience and everybody there singing the Star Spangled Banner. And Dave just looked at me and he laughed and he says, "Isn't that funny?" He says, "The song you don't sing is the one people like the best." Like, yeah,
that was his wit, though.
He was so funny.
That's incredible to think of it that fast. Oh, and in the midst of an event that was really monumentous. Like, I remember I was not that far from you. I was section 101, row 17, and I just couldn't believe it. Like, it was the playoff atmosphere and the fan passion and all of that. It was just, that was one of those ones that sticks with you.
Well, 100%.
What was going through your head?
Oh shit.
Yeah. Not the lyrics.
No, because I look at and here's the thing people don't understand is that the TV feed was working, but it just wasn't working in Rogers Place. So live in the arena wasn't working, and obviously you can attest to that. But I look at my production manager, Joel Bird from Edmonton, and that's why we have sound checks. We sound checked earlier in the day, 4:30 p.m., like we did every day. I look at him, and it's the scariest thing, because this is what he does. Puts his hands up, and he goes and he mouths like, "I don't fucking know.
What do you want?
I don't know, man.
Figure it out."
I don't know. And I'm thinking, if you don't know, you can't save me, then what do I do? So I just started to conduct.
Right.
And that's all I remember is putting my fingers up, because I started to hear people sing already. So I just wanted to give them an opportunity. Yes, it's okay. Please save me. Maybe, I don't know what was going through my head, but I just started to wave my fingers and conduct.
Yeah.
And then you got 19,500 people singing another country's anthem so well. That was
incredible.
It was.
Yeah,
the goosebump moment.
That was something special. And once it picked up, you probably like relaxed a little bit. And you're like, well, my job here is done.
Yeah. And it was just really cool to walk off the ice and not think that anything of it until, again, social media just blew up, and my Twitter feed, and everybody who had ever had my number in the last 15 years is now texting me saying, I saw it, great job, that's crazy. Then there were a lot of people that, you know, that were like, it was staged, blah, 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 on social media and stuff like that. It's like, we can't think about that, and you never stage an anthem, ever.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever toy with an anthem, because it has the risk of going wrong. And you never mess with the national anthem. Yeah. So that's why I was... But there's Dave. Isn't it funny, Brett? Song you don't sing is the one that people like the best.
How does he even think of that at that point? Good for him. Well, Brett, I know you got to run pretty soon here, so we'll shut her down. I just want to ask you one last thing, and it's how your view on your career and your approach to songwriting and what's important in life has shifted over the last sort of, what would it be, 15 years of your career? Yeah. Since 12 years old in that first album to now?
Well, I think I've just learned a lot of lessons that, you know, things like patience, things like hard work, perseverance. Bob Stedward was a guy who said, you know, the recipe for success is talent, commitment, sacrifice, and attitude. So I have felt that my talent has been there, but every now and then I waver on my commitment, whether or not I truly am committed to this thing in this career. And then it goes to sacrifice and saying, what am I willing to sacrifice? And certain things I wasn't willing to sacrifice my family, which is why my family came along. And you learn the lessons over the course of 15 years and watching your heroes and what they sacrificed in order to chase their dreams. And sometimes it was their marriage. Sometimes it was family or things. I'm willing to sacrifice anniversaries, and hell, I'd take a gig on Christmas Day. I really would.
Yeah.
But it's other moments that I wouldn't be willing to sacrifice. So I've had to learn that about myself, and then always adjust my attitude, not during the victories, but during the moments when you lose. Not just awards, but when your show doesn't sell out, or one of your competitors is doing way better than you, where you think you have a song that's going to go number one and it doesn't. It's that attitude that I think is what is going to take me the furthest. Is to either show appreciation, or this is the time to really dig down deep and say, yeah, you know what, had you worked harder, had you not been an idiot, had you not been stupid or whatever, you would have had that success. So, you know, saddle up and get back on, cowboy, kind of thing. So right. I've learned those lessons over the course of 15 years, and I'm not saying the previous generation of Brett Kissel didn't matter, but where it is now is the stakes are higher. These are real shows, real money, real fans, where, you know, this is a career that's going to set us up for the rest of our lives. So the lessons that I've learned have been those 4 things I mentioned, but also adding patience in there, and I really look forward to having conversations with younger artists and trying to pass on that knowledge too, so that we can help develop the next generation too. Of acts. That
switch of like taking from life, and then eventually you just start wanting to give back a little bit more.
For sure.
That's awesome. And lastly, what's left for you? Like, what do you want to accomplish still? What are the big things?
Well, the big things is to take my career outside of Canada and really put a full court press on in the United States and the rest of the world.
So you're not a Canadian country star, you're a country star.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you know what? Winning awards and doing things that we've done in Canada has been so special, and I don't think anybody at any time would ever be able to say that, and I want to make sure that they'd never say this, that I didn't give time, effort, energy, respect, and love to my home country. But now it's time to do things in Nashville on a giant scale. And I've been able to do things on a small scale. I've been able to play in many states and tour a lot in America. But now it's time to really make that a gigantic priority.
Amazing.
So hopefully the next time we have a conversation, we'll see whether or not
I'll have to come to you, because you're going to be far too busy.
No, you got my number, and I can't wait for the next one.
So. I really appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for the time. It's meant a lot,
Shane.
And I know people are going to love this one.
Well, I hope they do enjoy it.
All right, see you later. Podcast listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. An absolute blast chatting with Brett. What an interesting, humble, and genuine, down-to-earth guy. I'd love to hear your feedback on what you thought of the episode and who you'd like to see on next time. Take care now.